I used to think fear meant something was wrong with me. That pit in my stomach, the tight chest, the racing thoughts. I treated like a fire alarm. Panic, run, hide. And you want to know the worst part? I thought if I felt anxious, it meant I was weak, that I was broken. But here's what nobody told me. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal. Sometimes, the things that scare you the most are the very things trying to grow you. And what changed everything for me was simply curiosity. Instead of asking, how do I make this go away? I started asking, what is this trying to show me? And you see that shift from panic to presence rewired everything. So today's episode isn't about conquering fear. It's about learning how to listen to it, to get under the hood of your anxiety, and to see what's really there. Because the truth is, you don't have to be fearless to move forward. You just have to stop running from the message inside your fear. Welcome back to Hard Truths, the podcast where we cut through the noise, challenge the way you think, and talk about what's actually holding you back. So let's get into it. Let me get one thing straight. Fear is not weakness. It's simply biology. See, fear is your body's built-in alarm system. It's the amygdala, that almond-shaped structure in your brain responsible for detecting danger and firing off signals to the rest of your nervous system. See, it triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart races, your breath quickens, your muscles tense. You're primed to fight, flee, or even freeze. You see, this response used to keep us alive in the wild. But today, that same system gets triggered by things like emails, first dates, job interviews, or financial insecurity. According to the American Psychological Association, over 75% of adults regularly experience physical or emotional symptoms of stress, including headaches, fatigue, and anxiety. You see, when this stress response system is constantly activated, it can exhaust the body, increasing the risk of burnout, anxiety disorders, and long-term health issues like high blood pressure and heart disease. And the tricky part? Your brain can't always distinguish between real danger and the imagined threat. It reacts to perception, not precision. So when you're afraid of speaking up in a meeting, or telling someone how you feel, or launching something new, it's not that your life is at risk at all. It's that your identity feels like it is. See, the prefrontal cortex, your reasoning center, it goes offline. And what takes over is survival instinct. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, in his book, The Body Keeps Score, explains how trauma and anxiety live in the body long after the threat has passed, keeping your system on high alert. In other words, you're not crazy, you're conditioned. But here's the hard truth. Most of the fears that hold you back aren't life-threatening. They're ego-threatening. And until you learn to differentiate between the two, fear will keep controlling you. That's where curiosity comes in. When you slow down and ask, why am I feeling this? Instead of, how do I get rid of this? You switch from reactivity to reflection. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman describes this as shifting from a sympathetic state, think fight or flight, into a parasympathetic one. Think about rest and digest, through awareness and breath. See, the key is not avoiding fear, but giving it a name and a place to speak. So the next time fear rises in your chest, try this. I want you to ask yourself, if this fear had a voice, what would it be trying to protect me from? Because that's what fear is. It's a primitive protector, not a villain. And the more you can understand it, not judge it, the more power you gain to move through it. Here's something we don't say enough. Vulnerability is fear. When you open your mouth to tell someone how you feel, or share a truth that might shake things up, your nervous system doesn't register that as communication. It registers it as threat. That's because for most of us, safety hasn't meant truth. It's meant approval. Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." But you see, acceptance can feel almost impossible if your earliest experiences taught you that honesty led to punishment, rejection, or even abandonment. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people consistently underestimated how much others appreciated emotional honesty. We think being real will push people away, but in truth, it's what connects us. Still, vulnerability is biologically taxing. Studies show that when people anticipate emotional exposure, especially about sensitive topics like shame or inadequacy, activity spikes in the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the part of the brain associated with pain. Yes, your brain processes vulnerability the same way it processes physical pain. That's why saying "I'm scared" or "I need help" or "this hurt me," it feels like standing in front of a firing squad, even if you're just talking to a friend. But here's the paradox. The thing you're avoiding is that thing that would set you free. I know that sounds cliche, but real healing doesn't happen in private. It happens in connection. That means the risk of being seen is also the path to being understood. And the longer you protect your image, the more isolated you become. So I want you to ask yourself, what version of me am I protecting by staying quiet? And what part of me might finally heal if I spoke up? Because fear isn't the enemy of connection, it's the doorway. So there's a point where fear stops being a feeling and starts becoming a personality trait. You start saying, "I feel anxious," and you start saying, "I am anxious." And the more you identify with fear, the harder it is to imagine a version of ourselves without it. Psychologists call this fusion. When a thought or emotion becomes fused to your sense of self, you don't just experience fear, you become the fearful one. But here's the problem. Fear makes a terrible author. When fear is driving, your life becomes smaller. Your decisions get safer. Your dreams, they get quieter. And over time, you begin to believe that this version of you, the one who avoids, hesitates, tippy toes, is the real one. But that's not true. That's just a survival strategy that stayed too long. Dr. Kristen Neff, a leading voice on self-compassion, explains that most people don't need more discipline. They need more courage to meet themselves in their fear. The healing doesn't come from forcing yourself to change. It comes from realizing you were never your fear to begin with. Here's a reflection that might land. Who would you be if fear wasn't in the room? I want you to ask yourself that. Not who your parents raised, not who your trauma built, not who your anxiety rehearsed, but who you actually are beneath the armor. That's what this work is about. It's not about becoming fearless. It's about remembering the parts of you that fear tried to erase. Understand this: speaking your truth doesn't mean saying everything all at once, with no filter. That's not honesty, that's a purge. The goal isn't to dump your pain, it's to express it with intention. Start with this: not every truth needs to be said out loud, but the ones that are running your life in silence, they do. So here's a simple framework that I came up with. Number 1, name the truth to yourself first. See, if you can't even admit what you're feeling in private, you'll never be able to express it in public. So try journaling your raw, unedited thoughts. It could be as simple as, how am I feeling now? What is it that my body is feeling? What are the thoughts running in my mind? See, clarity starts in silence. Number 2, ask, what outcome am I seeking? Don't speak to vent, speak to create change. Do you want to feel understood? Do you want to set a boundary? Make sure your message and your goal aligns. And number 3, choose safety, not comfort. Safe doesn't always feel comfortable, but it means picking a time, place, and tone that supports real dialogue, not reactivity. A vulnerable truth is more likely to be heard when it's delivered with grounded energy. According to communication researcher Dr. John Gottman, successful hard conversations begin with soft startups, not blaming, not accusation language. Instead of, you never listen to me, say, I've been feeling unheard, and I want to talk about it. See, you don't have to sugarcoat your truth, but you also don't need to weaponize it. Honesty without compassion is cruelty, and silence without honesty is self-abandonment. There's a middle path, and walking it takes practice. Speak one sentence, pause, breathe, let it land. Then, stay. Don't flee, don't defend, don't perform. Just be there with your truth. Let the silence stretch if it needs to. That's where the shift happens. That's where your nervous system starts to learn it's safe to be real. Because it's not the truth that ruins relationships, it's the lack of it. And more often than not, the truth, spoken from a place of grounded curiosity, builds more than it breaks. So let's bring it home. You've unpacked fear. You've felt it in your body. You've seen it, how it hijacks your identity. And maybe, just maybe, you've started wondering what your life would look like if you had stopped running from it. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice speaking one small truth each day. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. Here's how you do it. First, morning check-ins. Ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding today? It could be a conversation, a boundary, a feeling, a decision. Second, name it. Say it out loud to yourself first. Write it in a note. Give it language. Truth dies in vagueness. And finally, take one honest action. Send the text. Have the talk. Set the boundary. Ask the question. Say what needs to be said. Here are some examples. I'm not okay with how that made me feel. I need more time to think before I decide. How about, this project overwhelms me and I could use some support. Remember, courage doesn't mean you won't shake. It means you still show up shaking. So track how it feels. Journal what comes up. Notice your body, your breath, your response. Because the truth is, every time you tell the truth, even in small ways, you become more of who you actually are. And over time, fear stops running the show. If this episode hit something real, good. Let it move you. Fear isn't the enemy. Avoiding your truth, that is. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be honest with yourself, with others, with your life. So if this shifted something in you, pass it on. Tag me at Danny Livin, DANNYLYVIN. Share with someone who's been quiet for too long. Because staying silent doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. Today's hard truth: the fear you're avoiding might be the truth that sets you free. Say it's scared. Say it's small. Just say the damn thing. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.